Hi, Dr. Whitney here. I just wanted to jump on and highlight some of the points made in Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is building relationships through positive communication. So, as an early childhood educator, what is it that we do to support positive communication skills? And really, one of the biggest things that we can do is talk to children, and that seems pretty easy to come up with since we're talking about positive communication. But with that, with the talking comes eye contact, tone, um, just responding to what they're saying, that serve and return, that back and forth. They ask a question, you respond, you ask a question, they respond, or you just go back and forth, describing the garbage truck that you see. Oh, yeah, it is loud. Yeah, you're right. It is green. I wonder what house they're going to. That serve and return that you have is one of the strongest things that we can do for those for the students that we come in contact in our early childhood career. So just be very, very aware of that and how all of that ties into positive communication. There is a term that's known as parentese. It's a research-based terminology, and it comes from the language, or not really the language, but the tone that's used when you're talking to a newborn or an infant. And so if you've ever held a newborn or an infant and you automatically, I'm looking down at the infant in my arms and you automatically go, "You are so sweet today. I just can't wait to just be with you all day and play with you." That voice, that high pitched sing song voice, that's something that we do as human beings. And if it's across cultures, it's something that we're all wired to do. And it has, it impacts young children in that interaction that they have and how we use that voice. And then as children get older, we, the conversation that we have gets more descriptive and we don't necessarily use the sing song voice. That kind of fades away. But I just always have found that that's very interesting that there is a term, a research term used for that called parentese, and it is mentioned in our textbook. So for us as early childhood educators to better understand children's needs, to clearly express the expectations that we have and be a role model for positive communication, we need to have effective communication skills ourselves. And part of that becomes what they call in the textbook careful and or attentive listening. So we have to be able to listen. We have to be able to give young children the opportunity to respond when we're talking with them. That wait time when you ask a question or you ask them to do something, giving them time to process that before immediately, "You didn't do that. You didn't do what I asked you to," or "Why aren't you answering?" To understand that that's part of their communication, the processing piece, and giving them time to, formulate a response in their brain. And so all of that, and then comes with the careful listening and that talk, that serve and return. All of those things are what we do as the adults to have those effective communication skills. There are in the book, as we think about the effective communication skills with young children, we also have to think about the effective communications with the adults, our fellow coworkers, adults that we come in contact, and parents in our centers and the programs that we work with, and then how young children see us model those. If you're going to have a crucial conversation, which is talked about in the book, and there are many resources out there about how to have crucial conversations. I encourage you to find a resource, look it up. Those are things that you can practice because we're all going to have and continue to have crucial conversations. But one thing is we don't want to have one of those conversations with a parent with the child around. It really is because they can get tense. I don't want to say heated, but they can get tense. They said in the book, when we go into some of these conversations, you go in the flight or the fight mode already. Just emotions run high. So we don't want young children to see that. Even though we may it may say professional, voices can get loud, people can get short with each other. So when you have to have a crucial conversation, think about the location, make sure it's not around the children, and then just try, like, again, find resources, role play with somebody before you have that meeting. I've been doing this for a long time now, over 25 years, and those conversations don't get easier that we have to have, but you do learn strategies and you do learn how to um, reflect on your own skills, your own experiences, all of those things that you're bringing to the conversation. So just be aware of those and just know that the impact that those are also part of our, positive communication that we have with young children and their families. One of the other topics that was under this umbrella in the book was power struggles. So with young children, just be aware of this. My dad had many power struggles with my youngest son as he was growing up. And I finally had to say to my dad, stop. No one's winning. He is as headstrong as you are, and you're the adult. You got to stop. It would ruin us going out to dinner and evenings because he felt somebody had to win. And if he didn't get his point across that my son didn't learn a lesson or won that round, and I was like, stop, you're the adult. Watch, if this happens, then you have to figure out how to manage this. So just be really aware of getting in power struggles with children. Watch how you're feeling, take a pulse of what your feelings are as you're getting into conversations with young kids, and if they're escalating, and just be aware of power struggles are never a good thing. The other thing in the book that I wanted to highlight, there was a section on should children have to apologize. And when I started out in early childhood, I was said, yep, if they do something, they hit somebody, you do this, they need to apologize. You have to be really careful with that. I know in some of your all's assignments that you've turned in that someone said, well, I would make the child apologize. I think a couple of people had put that, and I've commented, you have to be really careful with that. If it's not sincere, what is really the message that it's sending? You can offer comfort to the child. If it's somebody got tripped and they fell, you can offer that. You can model to the child the one that did it, like what that looks like to be sincere and to care for someone, to offer amends. But you have to be very careful about just having children just offhandedly say that they're sorry. In the book, I think it's on page, I think it's the focus 8.9, that positive focus. It gives ways that you can have children make amends. So I encourage you, it's on 223. I encourage you to look at that, of how children, without saying they're sorry, can learn that skill of understanding their behavior. Like they can understand the consequence or things of how they make people feel by doing some of these ways that children can make amends without just saying, I'm sorry. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't had a chance, to look at that. And then there's also one of the sections was on positive request and negative command versus negative commands. If you've been in early childhood for a while, I'm sure that use your walking feet, indoor voices. And again, use your walking feet is not don't run. Those negative, all of those are negative, and we don't want that. We don't want a negative tone in our classrooms. So there are ways to guide children, hence the positive guidance class that you're in, to get children to do what we need them to do, to be safe, to follow the rules, to be good citizens in the classroom, to be respectful of their peers. We can do that in a very positive way. And so that can be a growth area for some, especially if you're starting out. But just keep in mind, like when people say things like, don't hit. The last thing that the child has heard is hit. So that's we just you have to be aware of what's going in, what children are processing, and then how you're saying it. There are plenty of resources that are coming out now that are research based, including conscious discipline, the pyramid model, second step, that really look at strategies for helping children with behaviors, with challenging behaviors, social emotional, and it really all is through a positive lens. So I really encourage you to look if that's something that you're interested in or would impact your own strategies, to definitely look into some of those resources. I think they would be very, very helpful. I do want to also highlight just a section. If you don't find a crucial conversation book or a resource, you don't have time to look around, you can look in your book on page 219 at the Positive Focus 8.7. It really does give some good tips about crucial conversations. And I think, because what we do in a classroom every day, we have a great class, and then something happened, and we have to have a crucial conversation with a parent at the end of the day. And it can make a good day end on a really hard note if especially if you've not had a chance to really process through what crucial conversations are, and then just have some strategies, to make sure that you're being heard, you're hearing what's being said, and then a resolution has been made to move forward with whatever it is that the crucial conversation is about. So again, I hope that you all have had a chance to read chapter 8. There's a lot of great points to take from it. I hope this just highlights for you some of those that I felt like jumped out at me. And I will be back soon with chapter 9. Thank you.